Hello everybody, today I would like to introduce a sword I designed. First, let me talk a little bit about myself first. I've been practicing swordsmanship since 1994, so that is about almost 30 years ago. And I've come in touch with real sword since 1998, and along the years I've used various designs of swords, including Japanese, Chinese, European, Indian, Nepalese, and fantasy swords even. And I test cut on pork arm. I was the first person to test cut on pork arm and put video on the net back in 2000 year. And I've cut various kind of targets, including tatami and water bottles, bamboo, and recently I cut on newspaper rolls, soaked newspaper roll wrapping a PPR core to simulate a realistic living human limb. Because the core simulates living bone better than pork arm does. Pork arm usually I get the pork arm from the shop in the market, and it has been dead for quite some hours. So the calcifying effect will harden it beyond a living bone would have been. And after all these years of purchasing and testing swords, recently, especially with this camera sponsored by a good friend, this camera comes with high FPS at full HD resolution. I have finally figured out the problem doing a cut that didn't cut through. Even if the edge alignment was correct and with enough speed to begin with, sometimes when the target is too thick, too substantial, and the sword doesn't carry enough power, it would get stopped, or maybe not totally stopped, but slowed down significantly and started to twist along during the cut inside the target, and it bends around, flags around. It will start to vibrate violently. And with the help of this camera and a professional software, DaVinci Resolve Studio, I've tuned up the frame per second to 1000 frames per second. And with this digital help, I've finalized the conclusion how to solve this problem. And I've come up with maybe two solutions which I can put into the design of my sword. And I put the first one into this sword, the first solution into this sword. This is what I call Supreme Cutter. Supreme Cutter. And there will be three models of different length. This one is the classic length, classic model, the medium one. The long one will be the ultra, and the shorter one will be called the compact. What is this classic version of this sword is I usually classify swords into three different classes. First one is the general purpose. The second one is the one versus one specialized. And the third one is the one versus multi opponents specialized. This one is the general purpose one. It is actually around 120 cm total length, and with 90 cm blade length. I haven't done a good measurement yet, but yeah, it looks like that. It comes in the right size. This kind of length is good for we modern people at this height, because with a sword shorter than this one, you may have difficulty defending your legs from opponent's attack. And the longer one requires more skill to wield, and more strength and skill more accuracy, because the longer the sword is, the more inaccurate it will become. So this one is the general purpose one, which is good for every kind of situation, including indoor combat if you know how to wield it with limited movement, and also good for outdoor combat when you are facing multiple opponents. This one will work as well, but not as specialized as the Ultra one that will be coming next. And the Compact one will be specialized for indoor combat, which is slightly shorter, but still give you just enough reaction time. The length of this sword was, in addition to allowing you to defend your legs, the length of this sword has the reaction time for defense in mind. Which means when your opponent is striking at you, you have this much distance for the opponent's strike to come in before it arrives and making contact with you. This length equals to certain amount of reaction time allowance for you to react, to defend yourself. The shorter the sword, the less reaction time you will have. The longer the sword, the more reaction time you will have, and also the reach advantage to reach the opponent's lower targets. The shorter the sword, you are not likely to be able to reach lower targets. So this one is good. This one is middle length that is good for defending and also able to strike lower target. Moreover, I've put many features in this sword design. First of all, it has a metal shape, fully covered, so when I put it on the ground, on the floor, it does not hurt the scabbard. The metal take the impact first, or the scratching. This is for protective. And secondly, I'm not sure if this is showing on the camera, but I will show you in the photo. This scabbard is covered with artificial raised skin, which give you extra grip, anti-slippage. So whatever you choose to hang this sword with is not likely to slip around. It will stay grippy. And then the third thing is that the metal collar here in the scabbard, I'll take it out and show you. The metal collar. You know, many long trend sword came with metal covered surface here, and I asked them not to do that. This piece here is wood. So when you sheath your sword back into the scabbard, the tip will not hit the metallic surface and blunt your tip. And the metal collar here still serve as reinforcement for the scabbard. So this is about the scabbard part. Okay. Another feature that comes from my design is that the scabbard wood, I've personally picked a very soft wood that was used to store katana with, that kind of white wood to be the scabbard wood, because I would like to preserve the sharpness of my edge as much as possible by not dulling it with any contact with hard wood. So that is also a consideration. And another feature is that these fittings were all stainless steel, so that it does not get rusty with your hand touching it around. You can touch it as much as you want without the need to just oil it afterward. You don't have to do it. This stainless steel, good to practice with, good to handle with, less worry. That's about it. Let's say the pommel. The pommel is shaped like this as a finger retainer. So it locks your grip to prevent the slippage, that your hand will not slip over the grip easily with this shape. Secondly, it is cord wrapped. This gives a very good friction on and equally friction on each part of the hilt. Also, this grip is pretty thick and broad compared to, let's say, a katana hilt. This one is thicker. This one is thinner. This one is more narrow. This one is broader, as you can see. Why do I choose a thick and broad handle? Is that when you grip a sword, the less force you have to squeeze with your hand, the lighter the sword will feel. Despite the actual weight the same, despite the balance is the same between two different swords, the one that require less squeezing to hold will feel lighter, much lighter actually. And it allows you to have more room for finger movement, so that you can power a strike with fingers only. That will hide your strike intention from your opponent and makes your strike very likely to land. That's one of my skills. And you can see that this one came with a recurved hilt. The hilt curved another way from the blade, and this is a feature. Another thing is that you can take a look on the guard. This one, the guard size, is a lot bigger than the katana's tsuba from Longquan. This one, the guard itself is custom made with polished rim and sandblast surface. Very good touching. When you touch the surface, it's nice to touch, but the rim is polished too, so it has a nice contrast, and also the coverage is totally enough to protect your hand from opponent strikes from whatever angles. So this is specially made. And then this is my logo, L, Lancelot Sword. And the blade is specially designed at my request thickness and width tapering and the distal tapering. The edge came with the sword was good enough to cut fabric open, but not very easily, and it struggled a little bit with Kevlar, but I already turned it into Lancelot Sharp, which cut Kevlar like nothing. Today we are going to test a new arrival. This is S cutter, supreme cutter that I designed and made by Longquan. I would like to test its original edge and see if it could cut fabric or not. Synthetic leather, okay? And we'll try the original edge. Okay, it cut through the fabric with some force. Let's try again. Now, effort, but good enough for default edge, the original factory edge. Now we try to move up the difficulty to cut Kevlar. See how it does. Now I got myself bigger piece of Kevlar. We can try again. We start from here and pull. Okay, it cut through, but not as easy. Try again. Okay, it takes longer path to cut through, longer blade length to cut through the set piece of Kevlar, but this is still impressive. This one doesn't cut very good, but yeah, it's more or less capable of cutting through fabric for sure. Kevlar, almost, most of the time. Now you see, it didn't cut through very well, struggling. But I will turn this into Lancelot Sword where that it cuts very good with my kind of edge. Now, after spending an hour on sharpening the blade to my standard sharpness, let's check it again. Go with fabric first. Now this is as the same fabric before, synthetic leather. Okay. How about this? Kevlar. Much better. Much better. Instantly cut. See? So this is Lancelot Sword. And in this sort of case, I pushed the edge to the very limit that I want to see whether this steel can withstand the sharpest edge I put on it, and then I bring it to test cut. This sort of steel is at is between 55 to 50 HRC hardness, which I tested, and the sword during the test cut suffered very minor bending on the apex of the edge, which I think is more than acceptable because I have used way more expensive sword and those kind of sword, even with 3V alloy, super steel, they cannot withstand the kind of cutting I do at that angle. So this one, considering the damage it has taken, is performing on par with those super steel. What I have to do is just tune back a little bit of the angle to make it more sturdier, and it will be alright from that on. So you can say that I put it over the limit a little bit just to see how is it extreme performance. Where will it fail? I had to test it. Where will it fail? Yeah. So now, and this sword handles very well. When it arrives, I put it out of the sheath, the first thing I found is that it is very fast, extremely limber, very fast sword. You see the size, and I can swing it single-handedly, as if it's nothing. Okay? It performs the lateral synchronization perfectly. So, in terms of defense, this one will be a quick reflex defender. And for the tip location, I'm now having my eyes shut and randomly moving the tip around to mess up my sense of location, and then sense by just feeling where the tip is. It's about here. You see? I feel it here. It's here. A little bit of discrepancy, but let's try again. It's not too bad. Okay, here. Yeah, a little bit of discrepancy, but acceptable. So it has good reflex, and the tip feels kind of light, as you can see from the blind location of the tip. I usually feel that it's shorter, but it's actually longer. What it means is that the tip is very light, so light that without eyesight, I somehow cannot feel exactly where the tip is. The tip is light. How heavy is the sword, you may ask? Let me check. This is 1.570 kg, and that is 3 pounds and 7 ounces, something like that. And what is the balance? Let's check. Balance is 9.3 cm off the guard. That is 3 inches, 3.75 inches, which explains why this is so nimble. Now, as you can see, this sword has a very nimble balance, not even 4 inches, and very acute blade. What kind of power do you expect this sword have? What kind of power do you expect this sword to have? I've already tested with it, and I've even fixed the minor edge damage that it suffered. I would say this sword is the best cutting sword I've ever cut with anything with. My design proved to be super effective. And the theory I come up to solve that twisting problem inside the target was very good. It went perfectly. It went through fabric covered thigh target like nothing is there. I will let you judge yourself when I played the test cut video now.